Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Steve Cohen, who is the founding member of 21 Mill. Welcome to the program, Steve.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Hey, so 21 Mill sounds like 21 million. I know it's not 21 million, it's Millennial. So get us started on what is 21 Mill, how did the name come about? I'm always curious to see how people pick names, and it's a catchy name, so I'm sure there's a fun story behind that.
Well, thank you. We aren't at 21 million yet. However, hopefully sooner than later. The name comes from sort of the core vision of the business, which is generate 21st century professionals. So the startup is really focused on creating a technology that was designed specifically for millennial professionals to sort of help give them the tools they need to navigate the workplace. So there's a series of 21 modules, hence this theme around 21, that are all specifically designed for a younger learner. So we have topics on how to integrate social media into the workplace, how to put down the device and get back to face-to-face communication. We have modules on working across generations, what to do if you're not receiving the recognition that you want, how to be able to climb the ladder. So they're all very, very specified for a young millennial or a seasoned millennial who is currently working their way, through their professional goals.
I do quite a bit of research on that topic. I teach marketing at a couple universities, and that's one of the topics that comes up is millennials and what is, all of the nuances there. And so I know it's huge and massive, and I love this initiative. What I wonder is how much of the focus is it completely focused on the millennial and how they can succeed, which I know the answer is yes, but do you also kind of jump across the line from time to time in the training where you may say, look, a Gen Xer or a Boomer may say this in this situation, and here's how you need to take it, and please know you might never change a Boomer or a Gen Xer, so here's what you need to do in dealing with that across, maybe the company lines, because that is going to be a piece of success in that millennials, journey, is learning how to deal with maybe the old dog who's not willing to learn new tricks.
Exactly. So there are a lot of tools that are currently in existence for leaders who have to manage millennials. So there are lots of books on, managing millennials, retaining millennials, training millennials, but there isn't a lot of tools that are actually for the millennials to be able to have a resource so they can figure things out on their own, because, the times are changing, and with 3 generations in the workplace, there is a lot of differentiation, with styles of how to do business, and the modules themselves really give a lot of good information to the learners in our generation. I'm also a millennial, to make sure they know how to work with Gen Xers and baby boomers, and what to do if their sort of core needs as a millennial employee are not being met, because oftentimes there's a disconnect between millennials' needs, right, for flexible work schedules and lots of time off, and being able to get promoted really, really quickly and have big assignments right away. And unfortunately, in a lot of organizations, there's a clash, right, because the organizations sometimes don't have those scenarios kind of already in existence for their younger employees. So the tool really helps the millennials navigate some of the obstacles that they inherently have to face, give them tips and tools around some of the core components of being a successful professional, and it really speaks their language. All the modules are short, they're segmented, they're between 6 and 7 minutes, so they're rapid, they're virtual in nature, so you can download the app and do everything on a mobile device or a tablet or your desktop computer. There's a lot of integration to make sure that the messaging that they're learning in the modules can then be transferred through homework assignments. There's a coaching and a support piece, so the learners have a resource to make sure that they're being encouraged and directed in the right way. So it's a really comprehensive solution to do what we are passionate about, which is bringing out the best in our generation.
I wonder, and I don't know that anyone knows the answer to this, but you made an interesting statement that broad brush generalization of a millennial, right? We want a flexible work schedule. We want a lot of time off. We want big projects and to be promoted. Where in the world did that mindset start, right? At what point did someone think, I want more time off to be promoted, big projects, before paying your dues? And I know that it's not like a snarky thing like, well, I deserve this and give it to me, but I do feel like at some point there was a shift in mindset back in the day. At some point, a group of the generations started thinking, well, I like that flexibility, and I like that. And I do know, and I will agree with you, it's not like I want time off flexibility and I don't want to do any work but give me big money and promotions. I know that's not the mentality, but where do you think that mindset started shifting where a person who now is called in the millennial generation would feel like, I want to contribute to this company and I want to make big contributions, but at the same time I want, X, Y, and Z. Where do you think that started, shifting?
So there's a really interesting talk that was recently given by Simon Sinek. And if you just do a YouTube search for Simon Sinek and millennials, it'll pop right up. And he gives a really interesting kind of insight into the exact answer to the question that you've asked. And he said one of the core elements is for our generation, we've had instant gratification be the norm pretty much as soon as, we had access to the internet. So, for us, if we want to watch a movie, we go on to Netflix and within 5 seconds, we're watching a movie. If, we want to order food and have it delivered, we go on to Grubhub, we order it through our phone and boom, it's at our door. We've had a mentality and we've had sort of expectations to just get things very, very quickly. And throughout our life, that's, been the standard. So when you go into a new environment, like a work environment, where that no longer is the standard, it can cause quite a bit of chaos and frustration and obstacles, because all of a sudden you're now in a place that isn't your usual kind of like expectation. And it's causing some issues in the workplace, which is why there's so much talk.
You mean I can't push a button and get this done? I've got to fill out a request and wait, what?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a mindset of just like rapid, on-demand, very, very quick expectations. And when those are not met, it kind of goes against the grain for what we're kind of conditioned to expect.
So which side, if you were mediating between a Gen X or Boomer and a millennial in a work environment and, making being the mediator, which side would you say needs to compromise or come closer to the middle more, or is it 50-50? Meaning the typical work environment needs to maybe be a little bit more not stuck in their way, and we've always done it this way because maybe there's some more efficient ways we can do things and get more done, because that millennial might have a great idea about not even their job responsibility, but just, hey, how we can order Pizza Hut off the app and it's here in, 30 minutes and it's already tied to our payment and we just push a few buttons. I wonder if we could do that here in this organizational structure. So where do you feel like, the typical work environment needs to kind of do a little bit of like realization, like, ooh, that's a good idea, as well as where do you think the millennial needs to go, okay, there are limits, they're going to listen, they're going to make some changes, but it ain't going to be quick.
Yeah, so in the module specifically, we talk a lot about what you can and can't control, because at the end of the day, there are certain things that might be affected, and there are certain things that just can't be done. So the example of, let's say, FedEx. Well, if you're a FedEx millennial employee and you have this idea, well, we should just get packages from Toronto to Beijing in 5 hours. That's rapid. Let's just get it there. Well, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to bring packages across the world like that in, that time frame. So there needs to be an understanding that, not everything can be done as quickly as possible, but there should be conversations, there should be innovative discussions to talk about some of the disrupting ways and things that you can do to maybe find a more rapid solution for clients. And I think as a mediator, it's all about having the discussions to figure out what's real and what's not. And at the end of the day, there are usually reasons, right, why most companies are doing certain things a certain way. So it's good to have those conversations, but it's also good to set some context around really what we can and can't do.
Yeah, I mean, physically, literally can and cannot do, like the example about Toronto to Beijing, because it just can't be done. Sorry. I mean, you can have the Concorde times 10 and probably it's impossible. But there are going to be some things where when it's done in the right attitude, spirit, approach, all of that something could be proposed and maybe in a short period of time, like, that process could be improved. What if we did X, Y, Z, and, you pitch that to the boss, and now it's like, hey, take that project and run with it and make it happen. And then now the millennials feeling like, I had an idea, I was validated, I'm working on this project, and I'm making a difference, because when it succeeds, and I'm given the credit for it because they should, now all of a sudden it's like, wow, that cog in that machine's working a little bit better because of an idea that I had. And then because I'm pretty sure I am thinking correctly that millennials want to feel validated and want to feel like they make a difference. And, wow, this project did this, and it wasn't just shuffling papers and making photocopies.
Yeah, and I think one of the really important things to distinguish is so often we have trainings and these kind of goals and expectations that we can affect other people to do things that allow for my wants and my needs. So if I just convince my boss to do more of this, then I'm going to be happier. And oftentimes, people aren't robots. They're not computers. You can't just put in an algorithm to get them to do exactly what you want. So throughout, our learnings, we do a lot of what we call self-promoting. So an example would be we have a module on what to do if you're not getting the feedback that you are wanting to ensure that you're doing the right work and you're growing and, being acknowledged for the successes that you're having. So we teach a methodology called green light, yellow light, red light, which means you make a list of all the projects you're working on. You give yourself a ranking from green, yellow, or red, meaning green, you got positive recognition. You did a good job. It was acknowledged. Yellow, you didn't get asked to do rework, no acknowledgement, but it was status quo. Red, meaning you have to do it again. So you can rank yourself, right, based on how people are reacting to your work, and then you can give yourself feedback. So there are certain ways that we can teach certain things.
Yeah, because if you're not going to get it from the boss, maybe you can get it yourself. And that's a really interesting thought, because it's kind of like, in personal development work, if you have your to-do list for the day, don't try to pound them all out in an hour and a half. Try to do one or two at a time, and then after a certain time frame, you give yourself a little reward, like get a cup of coffee and walk around the building and then go back to work again. Well, you just described something where it's like, okay, I've tried and tried, it ain't going to change, but I'm going to give myself a little rating, and I'm going to have those little teeny endorphin pops because I see a job well done and I assessed it and whatever. So I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's a conversation on who's right and who's wrong, right? Because you have a culture in place, and that culture has been established for a long time. So if millennials want certain things, should the organization change to cater? Or, if it's been the way that it's been for so many years, do millennials need to adapt? And that conversation has been having, big impacts all over the world with regards to what do we do? Because there's just a disconnect, right? There's new thinking that is coming into play in our workplace. And, the way that we've designed our modules and thought about how do we influence young workers all over their professions, we focus on kind of making sure that you can do what you can do and leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
And it's been really well received thus far from the beta testing and the small sample that we've currently gone through.
That's really neat. And then, of course, the app and the technology and all of that makes sense because you're certainly not going to sell a printed 8.5 by 11 leather-bound book because that's just not talking the right language. So that makes a huge amount of success. Do you feel like this platform or this training opportunity is something that would be helpful to have millennials discover on their own? But at the same time, would there be some organizations that would make this kind of like almost required reading or like part of their orientation to go, look, this is really, really helpful. And then maybe when they hire a millennial, it would be a helpful part of their new hire orientation.
Exactly. So as we've had the conversation on, where's our strategic focus? Is it a B2B or a B2C? Because there's value in both arenas. Because millennials seek out training and development. 63% of millennials currently state that they don't receive the training and development that they're wanting to have happen. So that's a large percentage. So millennials are the most educated generation of all time. They seek out answers and solutions on a regular basis through Google and YouTube and all the different resources that exist. So there's definitely a platform from a consumer standpoint. But there's also a platform from a business standpoint, right? Because a lot of businesses are trying to figure out this millennial kind of quandary. What do we do to make sure that our team of millennials are happy, that they're finding success, that they're growing and developing? So the approach that we've taken is basically a hybrid. So if there's a consumer that is interested in going through and paying for access to the platform, there's a consumer portal that they can go through to get access to the learning. And then we have a series of enterprise solutions for businesses based on number of users and integration with regards to their current learning management systems, and we have different platforms based on how much support they want. If it's internal support, so their HR learning development people are sort of tracking the successes and coaching the learners, or if it's external with our 21 Milk professionals assisting in that process. So there's kind of a lot of options that are currently available both to consumers and businesses. And since we're a startup and we're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, we've had lots of conversations with both groups, and we're, basically seeing what is going to be the future as we get more information into the business, and we'll kind of grow from there.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And you go top down, bottom up, left to right, right to left, and you just at the core of it is a good solid training program that is well received by that target audience, in this case the millennial, who doesn't feel talked down to or forced or whatever the case may be, and then they get in and get really acclimated to that mindset. And I would suspect that going through each one of these modules and the quick and the fast-paced and the right, communication style, I would think that is really, really the core of what the offering is. So that sounds super, super good. So what is the best way that people can, or millennials or employers, can learn more about 21 Mil?
So the website is www.21mil.com, and through the website there are a bunch of demo videos. There's a link to be able to sign up for a demo, to be able to get access to selected modules, to kind of get in and touch and feel everything to see what it's all about. And then people are more than welcome to email me. It's stevec@21mil.com, and I would be more than willing to share more information about what we're up to.
Excellent. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful getting to know you and this great cause, and good luck to you in the future as this grows.
Thank you so much, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.